And just gonna get one more thing in place there. All right, cool. She's on it. We're recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another LifterLMS webinar. Today, we've got a special guest, Patrick Murray. He's a course creator and an interesting person who's done a lot of interesting things with LifterLMS and doing some more advanced marketing. His niche is in AV technology. So we're going to kind of get into the case study of his journey as a course creator. He's using a tool called ClickFunnels for more advanced marketing. He's also developed a product that connects ClickFunnels to LifterLMS, so he can sell through the ClickFunnels platform, and the courses can activate on a separate LifterLMS site. He's developed that with Dennis Hall over at Learning Templates, and we'll post a link in the chat where you can see that ClickFunnels product over at learning-templates.com. And we're also going to get into dealing with international tax issues. So we're going to cover a lot of interesting just course builder issues that people in more advanced situations run into. But first, Patrick, I just want to thank you for coming on the webinar.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. I'm really excited about this. It's I got a lot of this stuff going on in my head, and it's really nice to have the opportunity to talk about it with other course creators.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, just the very act of getting stuff out of the head and talking about it and teaching about it and sharing experience, that's just part of the teacher's journey. So I'm really excited for this one. And if those of you listening have any questions as we go, in Zoom, there's a little Q&A feature that you can use. So you can just ask questions in that Q&A box. We'll kind of go through the main just conversation here and then open it up to Q&A at the end. But feel free to drop in questions as we go. So Patrick, can you tell us a little bit about your niche and like when you decided to create a course and what AV is all about?
All right. So AV stands for audio visual. And it's basically, we control the lights and the shades, and it's a lot more than audio visual, but that's kind of where we got our start in corporate boardrooms 10 or 20 years ago, big CRT projectors. But electronics have gotten a lot cheaper over the years. So now there's like a display in every single room. There's music and audio everywhere. So we used to have to control those devices. One button, the projector screen comes down, it turns on, it selects the right source. So it was a natural step to control the shades and the lights and things like that. So those are like the roots of my industry. When I say AV, that's what I mean. And you find it everywhere in high-end homes, mega yachts, and it's pretty much standard fare for corporate boardrooms and meeting rooms and any kind of business that has a projector and the like.
That's awesome. So were you a consultant for a while and then you wanted to teach on it, or how did you get into teaching AV?
Well, right. So I started a long time ago, actually pulling cable and building up the equipment racks and things like that. And eventually I started doing the programming for the control side. And this was long before the iPhone, and we had touch panels, but it was funny because nobody knew what the heck it was. You would show them a touch panel and they'd be like, what's that? But as soon as the iPhone came out, everybody understood what I did for a living. So,
so you were ahead of the times a little bit.
Yeah, kind of, which isn't always a nice place to be. It was pretty painful sometimes getting things to work. But yeah, so when I moved to Germany, nobody would give me a job because I didn't speak German, obviously. So I put a sign in front of the door and said, I'll do your programming. And that was 12 years ago. And I've been a freelance programmer ever since then. And a few years ago, I just didn't want to travel so much. I did a lot of work on the yachts, the mega yachts that are built here in North Germany, and they don't stay still. So I was always on planes running around, and my children were getting big without me being there and getting to witness that. So I was just trying to find a way to spend more time at home. And of course, over the years, you accumulate some knowledge and information, and the internet is a beautiful thing because you could just share it with so many people. And initially, it was really hard to believe that people would be interested in anything I really had to say, because you get used to what you do. It's just normal. But it started with one video that I posted, and yeah, I got 70 subscribers overnight. So I
On
figured
YouTube?
there's something to it. Yeah, it was a YouTube video, and I posted a link to it in a forum.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of people actually get their start or start uncovering demand by seeing what happens on YouTube. It's actually a great way to test demand, just putting content out on YouTube. Well,
Absolutely.
I just want to identify that, that niche. That's such a very tight niche, like high-end AV, for mega yachts, boardrooms. And I mean, it's actually probably a pretty big niche, but that's
It's
the
a
very
huge
focused
industry.
topic. It's not just like if we go up a couple levels, we would just be at the general IT or the tech department. Sure. But this is like very focused on something specific, which is really awesome. How you said, you got tired of being away, or were you looking at ways to scale your time and have a little more time location freedom? How many years had you been in the AV field before you decided to start teaching online about it?
Over 20 years. I've been a freelance programmer for 12 years. So, and I still do it now. It's not that I want to completely replace anything. It's just I'm looking to travel less. So yeah, it was over 10 years that I had been doing this on my own. So
that's really awesome. That's super cool. And the reason I ask is I think it's important to highlight that, sometimes expertise is decades in the making. It's, launching a course when you've got that deep experience. It's not always about like, oh, well, I think yoga is a profitable niche. Maybe I'll make a yoga course. You're taking 2 decades of experience and funneling that into a course. I'm curious, if somebody has that much experience, it seems like it might be hard or challenging because of the curse of knowledge or all this knowledge you have. How did you go about creating the first course? Like, who was the target market? How did you decide what to put into the course so it wasn't just like your life's work inside a course? Like, how did you make it into a package?
Well, I didn't really start off with that intention, honestly. I was scratching my own itch. So the tools that we use to program audiovisual systems are actually pretty old. They haven't changed much over the years. And there's tons of modern software development tools like writing iOS apps or open source environments from Google and things like that. And we just don't use them. So I wanted to start using these things, and I was looking around and there was no information specific to AV. So I basically, fought my way through it and made it work. And through that, I got this framework of, okay, I know this works. I've tested it. I even deployed it at a few customers using just an iPad for control instead of buying your typical AV controller, and it worked great. But getting there, figuring it all out, was a huge challenge because there was nothing specific for me. So that's basically where it came from. I was scratching my own itch, and if I had these issues finding all that information, I'm sure other people would as well. So that's kind of how it worked out.
Do you have one course now or multiple courses?
I have multiple courses. So there's a particular manufacturer's programming language, and I have 2 courses for that in particular. And then I have another course for open source things using IBM's Node-RED. That's an open source programming language. So I show people how to write cloud applications to monitor different equipment and buildings and send text messages and alerts and things like that. And actually, next week, I'll be releasing another course about iOS programming for AV control.
Awesome. And while I've got you on the spot here with your course builder's journey, how did you get your first, in general terms, how did you get your first students?
It was the YouTube video. So there's a forum for that manufacturer's programming language. That manufacturer has a forum for certified programmers, and I just posted a video there. But I think it had a lot to do with the way I phrased it and everything. And people, again, this information just wasn't out there. How do you do this simple thing? And I used the words and terminology from the old programming language, how to do this the new way. And I think that, subject lines are a big deal because that's how you initially grab attention. And I think that's really what got the initial interest. And of course, the video was helpful. I really did go step by step. So there was absolutely no way you could make a mistake. I showed every single detail. And the beauty of video, you just hit pause, try it, and then go back and the next step. So it was really just talking to my colleagues, right? Using their language. It's how we talk to each other every day, and just showing them something really valuable. And after that, I had this email list. So I just locked the doors and created a whole course about how to program a complete system, a very simple room with a video projector and like a few sources, like an Apple TV to control. And then I posted it online and just sent out an email and said, hey, I made this. You could buy it if you want. And a few people did.
That's awesome. I just want to highlight a similarity there, that really like creating your finding a gap in the market and creating training videos on YouTube. Not only does it help you attract early adopter customers, it helps you practice teaching online. When I first learned WordPress, I actually learned it off of YouTube. I was watching YouTube videos about WordPress, and then I created my own video course about how to build with WordPress, and I put those videos on YouTube, and I started getting clients from that. And I think just using the YouTube as a part of your course building journey is such a great idea. And I really admire what you've done in that you found a true gap in the market where there was literally no competition, and you figured out how to use the words in the old way of doing things to like, hey, this is the old way, here's how you do it in the new way. And you had a complete blue ocean that you could step into. That's awesome.
Well, it
so
wasn't
I
really,
admire you for that.
Thanks, but it wasn't really all that intentional, right? I was just being myself. After so long in the industry, you just, it becomes normal. And when you talk to your peers, that terminology is all there already. And, but one of the issues that I had was people weren't sure about using this new thing. Mm-hmm. And there's still a lot of resistance to that. And one of my big issues was, if I'm going to go out there and really convince people that, yes, you should be learning this, I've got to be sure myself. So there was a lot of testing beforehand to make sure that it was actually viable to put out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about ClickFunnels. So for those of you that don't know what ClickFunnels is, it's a landing page software. It's an A/B split testing software. It's an e-commerce software. Basically, it allows you to build advanced marketing funnels. And the guy kind of behind it, Russell Brunson, is a marketer who's known for a long time in the internet marketing community. He's a really animated guy. He's really obsessed with marketing funnels and helping experts, build not so much like a website, but a page-by-page marketing funnel that helps add value with lead magnets and upsells and things like that on their way to becoming a customer. Did I do that justice? How do you define ClickFunnels?
I think so. I stumbled onto it really early. So of course, over the years, I've made web pages and tried out different builders just for the typical business card web page. Here's my company, here's what I do. And that's it, contact form, not even a sign up sheet. So I had some experience with how difficult it is to set up a web page. And I didn't try out many other things before ClickFunnels, because as soon as I started using their page builder, I just saw how much time it would save me. It really, and it works. Like there's a lot of page builders out there that kind of work, and sometimes they don't, and then it crashes, and you're transferring your WordPress from one hosting to another, and it could be time consuming and really frustrating. And with the ClickFunnels page builder, it just works, and it's really easy to understand. There's a few simple concepts, and then you're off and running. And everything was there already, like all the sign up forms, you could add them to lists, all the marketing, the email marketing is in there as well. So it was really just a no brainer, because as a programmer, I know what's behind there and how long it would normally take to do something like that. And so that it was kind of an easy decision for me. And I never really I didn't do much internet marketing before I got started with ClickFunnels. So I can't really compare it to anything else other than I had like a MailChimp account and did a list with that. But on top of that, So that's like the basic plan that they have. And then on top of that, they have something called Actionetics, where you can manage your email lists and create funnels there. And they also have something called Backpack that lets you run your own affiliate programs where you're completely in control. You have a dashboard, and you could, you could give logins. People could register as an affiliate, and they have their own dashboard for every product. So it really is the whole package.
That's awesome. Well, Kathy, if you've got Patrick's link there, if you could throw that in the chat, if anybody here is looking to get into ClickFunnels. And just full transparency, that is Patrick's affiliate link. So, but we wouldn't be recommending ClickFunnels if you didn't love using it. And I have a lot of respect for where it sits in the marketplace and in the industry, because the way you describe it, it's a landing page building software. It's an e-commerce software. It's an affiliate marketing software. It's an email marketing software. So it's kind of one of those things that kind of includes a bunch of things, which I talk about a lot, called the software Frankenstein. Oh, yeah, you could get up and running, but maybe I'm going to use lead pages over here. I'm going to use share sale for affiliate marketing. I'm going to use I'm going to use MailChimp over here. I'm going to use something else for the actual e-commerce part. So to combine that all under one roof, that makes a lot of sense. Could you describe for us in general terms, or specifically, like for the concept of a marketing funnel, let me just say it's all the actions and interactions someone has with you and your brand and your website and your landing pages on their way to becoming a customer, and even after the customer, like becoming upselling into other products, perhaps becoming an affiliate and a loyalty partner, and a trusted relationship there. So the funnel is a very interesting concept. It's very helpful when people start thinking about it and not always just going right for the sale all the time, and really thinking about nurturing someone, not from necessarily a persuasion standpoint, but from a let me add as much value as I can and help the customer understand the problem, propose some solutions, and that sort of thing. In building a marketing funnel or sales funnel, it's very helpful to think of the shape like this, and then it comes to the sale. These things at the top of the funnel, some people call that tofu. That's your free lead magnets. That's which could be a guide, a quiz, a free video training, an email mini course. The middle of the funnel, or MOFU, is like that could be a low price product, a more in-depth like ebook that is a bigger commitment to read. People are like starting to become problem aware. Perhaps they want a buyer's guide for AV technology or whatever. And then the bottom of the funnel, BOFU, is like where the conversion happens and the upselling and cross-selling and all that. Could you describe what your funnel looks like in general terms?
So I've got a few of them, because I'm always trying different things out. And I think it's important to realize up front, no matter what software you use, it could get really complicated. There's just no way around that, because you are connecting all these different things. Even if it is under one roof, you still are connecting all these different lists. And so if you have an email sequence that gets triggered by one thing, and then if somebody buys, then they get put on another list, it is always a challenge to manage these things. So I draw pictures here on my whiteboard to keep track of it. So I've got two things I'm doing now. One is a webinar. And so I post Facebook ads, just post a video. And again, it's very specific. So I have people who are interested in whatever, a company or whatever it is. And then I do Facebook ads with that. And I really just post the first video of the lesson or something very simple. And it's extremely boring, but people who understand it, right? Those are my customers. So if somebody's looking at this, they're going to say, "Ooh, what's that?" And they click on that. I get their email address, and then I'll drip out 3 or 4 more videos to them. And during that, what I've recently started doing is telling my story. So this is kind of something I discovered actually last week after reading one of Russell Brunson's books. I was super skeptical of the whole thing, but he really is a genuine guy, and the information is incredible. So
yeah, and I just want to throw in there, for those of you listening, Russell just released a book called Expert Secrets. I think that's what you're referring to. And if you click the link in the chat there, you'll see where you can buy it. And he actually, it's the top of his funnel, so he gives it away for free, except for you pay shipping, which is like $6 or something. So, but sorry, I just want to give people an action item if they want to go check out that book. But go ahead. So, what did you glean from the book?
Basically to tell stories, right? Tell people about your journey, what troubles you had, and just be honest and put it out there. And I had done that a few times before without knowing it in like email sequences. And looking back, I've always had success with those. And whenever I teach, I get less results. So there's always this temptation of, I'll have a webinar and all I'll do is teach for an hour and then give a 5-minute pitch and that's it. But when you tell stories, like last week, I did a webinar on the iOS app and I taught for maybe 90 seconds, no more. And the rest was just telling stories about where I started, the challenges I had with coming up with all this stuff, the lack of information out there, the frustration. And I was able to feel like right now, it may be hard to tell if anybody's listening, but you could kind of feel that people were interested in it. And when you're teaching, you kind of get that glazed over sometimes. But when you tell stories, you could almost feel the engagement. And the webinar converted over 20%, and it's just amazing. And it doesn't feel like marketing. To me, always kind of felt icky. Like I don't want to sell. I just want to do my programming and maybe help other people. But when you're just telling stories and being honest, it doesn't even feel like marketing at all, because you're not. You're really just telling people where you came from, how you got where you are, the challenges you faced. And if they're interested in those stories, then there's a connection there, and your content will probably be useful for them anyway. So that's what I'm doing now. And you could do this, and I do it in webinars, right? You tell your story, or you could do it in an email sequence and, just leave that little cliffhanger at the end, like 24. You always got to watch the next episode. And at the end, basically what I do with email is I make a special offer, like half price. And it just runs out after a few days. And I use Deadline Funnel to manage that. And then they'll just get redirected to the page with the full price. Because I know the common thing to do is just to say, it's closed, registration is closed, but that doesn't really feel genuine to me. I'm not comfortable with that. So I make them a special offer at a reduced price. And after the offer is over, then they can still buy it for the full price. And those are just some of the things I'm testing now. I can't really tell you what works. There's so many different factors. You got to find the people who are interested in your story. You got to have great content. Referrals are a huge deal, of course. And you need to just put it in a way that keeps people engaged and interested and makes them want to buy. And then, of course, you got to deliver. So whenever anybody needs any help, I try to answer them as soon as I can. And that kind of word spreads around quickly too.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's the secret sauce is often in the support. I think it's helpful to point out for people, if you're kind of new to the concept of a funnel for your online course or membership site, the concept of the marketing funnel and the traffic are different. So you were talking about using Facebook ads to drive traffic into the funnel. And just for people listening, there's like 3 or 4 main ways to get traffic into the funnel. You can get it kind of organically through content. You can do it through paid acquisition, like Facebook ads. You can do it through what's known as the sticky engine of growth, I believe, where the more people use the product or the course, the more their people are going to need to use your course or want to need your course. That's like a viral component. But oftentimes, if you can figure it out, especially at a small level, if you get the machine working with Facebook ads and paid acquisition, that's an interesting place to start, especially if you have no list or a small list and you're really trying to get that initial traction. But usually what I notice is people get good at one of those. So someone may ultimately become, well, I do paid ads. That's how I get people in my funnel. Somebody else may be like, I'm a content person. You know what? It's my podcast that I do every twice a week, and my YouTube videos or whatever. That's how I get traffic in my funnel. So there's different ways to fill the funnel.
I think forums are an important thing to mention, especially when you're getting started. So you don't want to spam any forums, but if you post something useful, that could be a great way to just test the waters.
Yeah, that's a great one. So if you Google your niche and then just add the word forum to the end, it's a totally underused method for finding your ideal community and engaging with them. And yeah, you don't want to just like sell them or spam them and just drop links, but go add value in a forum. Have an open mind if the forum looks terrible, like it was designed in 1999 or something like that.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah,
they have the most users.
Like 1 million users talking about technology or whatever, and it's a terrible looking website. So
there's a Yahoo group that's for 15 years. It's got, I don't know, 20,000 users or something. Right. So what I would do with that is I would post a video, and then underneath the video say, if you want the source code for what I just showed you, sign up here. So they give me their email and I send them source code.
And they're entering into your funnel. And I would do the same thing with my organic gardening course. I would go into culture forum, some amazing free content about in the world I had. The title was like one of or whatever, and then the rest of these check out the course and fit like that. It's a lot of comments with it. At what you get on Lifter come into the equation?
Right at the beginning, as soon as I decided that I wanted to, so I posted that one video on YouTube. My list increased by 70 people, yay. And then I decided I'm going to make a course out of this. And I started looking around at what options are out there. And it was important to me that I own my content, right? There's plenty of platforms out there, especially things like Udemy and things like that. I really want to control over as much as possible. And so anything cloud hosted was kind of not interesting for me. And especially something like Udemy where they cap the price and you have that gatekeeper. I know that from writing iOS apps. Like it's a huge hassle when you do something great and you have to wait for it to get approved in an app store or something like that. It's very similar with your courses. When you're done, you want to get it out there to your users and you want to be the one who's in control of that. So I really wanted something WordPress based, basically, because WordPress is easy to use and I host it myself and it's my content. I always know where it is. So yeah, just Lifter was the one that made the most sense. It was price-wise very interesting. And I tried it out and I had a whole bunch of questions and you guys were amazing. You always got back to me in like a day with way more than I asked for. Sometimes you'd send me like code snippets because of course I was trying to do funky stuff with the checkout. And you guys would tell me we don't have that, but check out this code. It might get you started. And so, and I never looked back because it just works. It's WordPress, it's mine. And it just made sense for me. And the sport's great.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, what about ClickFunnels? When did it come into the picture? When did you because Lifter has like a course description, sales page, and an e-commerce system. Right. At what point were you like, okay, I'm going to use Lifter for the LMS, but I'm going to use ClickFunnels for the marketing and the sales?
Right. So for the first month or so, I just used Lifter. Everything was, I guess it's over, but no, I had the Stripe integration as well. So, but I started, this is where we get into the tax issues because living in Germany, my business is based in Germany. I have to collect sales tax for, it's a complicated topic, but I needed to collect that VAT number. I needed a way to see where somebody was buying and to control who purchases what and the input field and things like that. I needed their sales tax ID number. And that's where things started getting into an area where where I had to develop custom things. And I just started looking around for another way to do it. And the checkout thing in ClickFunnels had everything. They had this Taxamo integration already, which we can talk about if you want. And that, I don't know if that was the main motivator, but it was definitely one of the things that encouraged me to start looking around was this tax issue. But also, yeah, just marketing to people, putting up landing pages. Eventually you get there. It's, you could do things with WordPress, but a page builder, the first thing somebody sees should be, it should be the sexy new shiny object to really catch their attention. So I think a page builder is kind of important to have. And one WordPress theme is fine for your course because that's kind of your continuity thing, what people see after they're a customer and a student, and that's your long-term relationship. But in the beginning, right, you want to make sure everything's really just eye-catching. And that could change over time. You want to test different things. So I was looking for a page builder as well. So I think those two things are kind of what motivated me to kind of look outside the WordPress ecosystem to find something.
Well, let's park it a little bit on the tax issue, because we do Lifter. Part of our mission is we're very global in nature. We invest a lot in translation. We have customers all over the world and free users, and we're really dedicated to serving the entire world. And I know, especially in Europe, the VAT tax issue is a big deal. And for those of you listening, just FYI, Lifter has an integration with WooCommerce, which is a e-commerce system for WordPress. They have an integration through Woo with Taxamo and some other VAT solutions. So just throwing you out there, like if you do want to keep it on WordPress, there are solutions out there that WooCommerce has figured out, which Lifter can integrate with. But can you tell us just a little bit more about the tax issue and what Taxamo is?
Okay, so here's the deal. For my normal, and this is going to get taxes suck, but we gotta deal with it, right? So if somebody, for my normal business, if I work with another company, B2B, business to business transaction, if it's outside of Germany, I don't need to collect sales tax. I could say there's a paragraph, so I don't need to do it. But if it's B2B inside Germany, like we're both in Germany, then I need to collect the sales tax and pay it, and then they could claim it on their end sometime later. So that's business to business. You kind of have the option of how you handle collecting sales tax. With business to consumer, so when a private person purchases something from you, you always have to collect sales tax. And depending on what country they're in, that will be a different rate. So in Germany, it's 19%. In Sweden, it's 21%. So it's a huge hassle. Now, here's the big, so you could say, like, one of the things that I used to do is say, I only do B2B. So you have to give me a VAT number. Otherwise, you can't purchase. That was like one thing I did. And then in Germany, if you were in Germany, then I had to collect sales tax anyway, but at least it was here in this country and I only had one rate to deal with. The problem is that the burden is on the seller to make sure that the information that you collect is correct. So what I was doing with an app of mine a few years ago was just saying, if you have to put in a VAT number, but I didn't check it. So I was not compliant. There are online services where you take that VAT number and the company name, you send it all off, you get a return and say, okay, that's valid. It's a huge hassle to do that. And then the other thing is dealing with different countries with the different rates. Of course, there are services that you could connect with, but it's the same thing. How many different, this web Frankenstein of services, how many different things do you want to deal with? You really want to keep it to a minimum of what you have to deal with. So that's where Taxamo comes into play. They integrate with every one of my checkout pages. And I think I did try the WooCommerce, but then it started getting into this landing page builder here, checkout there. So that's kind of why I stuck. That was what moved me to ClickFunnels. One of the motivations. It was one of many. So Taxamo has an integration with ClickFunnels. They might have one with WooCommerce too. I don't know. And it's just a part of my checkout page. So once I get everything set up, it's just there. And it looks at whatever the customer puts in and it checks their IP address, which they have to do too. So if I am in the EU, I can't lie and say that I'm in another country to get out of it. It'll default to the IP address. and it'll take the sales tax from that country and just tack it on the end. And then they have another service for automatic invoicing. It's like €10 a month, and I do that as well. And then the customer gets a PDF invoice with their address and name and everything on there, and the VAT, and actually the price at the end is in their currency as well, which is kind of nice for the customer. So that's kind of Taxamo in a nutshell. It's a very confusing topic, but I think I kind of covered it.
Yeah, well, we're not accountants or tax advisors here.
Yes,
so
exactly. Thanks for saying that. I almost forgot. I'm not an accountant. Please talk to your accountant.
So consult with your tax or accounting professional on this. So we're just sharing our experience. But yeah, it's a very real issue, especially folks in Europe. This frequently comes up.
Chris, I was searching around the other day, and again, I'm not an accountant. I don't know what the laws really are, but it looks like if you do business in the EU, you are supposed to be collecting sales tax.
So I have a question on that. Does that mean for you, when it comes tax time, are you literally paying like many different countries?
No, they have something called a mini one-stop shop. I don't know where they got that name from. So it's a MOSS, a MOSS report, and you fill that out quarterly, and that's part of the Taxamo service. They have all that information already, and they create the report for you. Yeah, and then my accountant sends it off. So you have to register your company with this EU MOSS organization, and once you're registered, then you're allowed to pay them.
That's awesome.
If you're collecting sales tax, you have to make sure it gets to the right place. But it's only one payment per quarter. So
very cool. Well, I'm going to have to get a certified tax expert in the United States on a podcast episode or something and really interview them about this issue in the US and if you're selling abroad in places like Europe, just to find out what's going on, because in many ways, at least in online business, sometimes it's still a little bit of the Wild West in terms of digital products. Countries haven't quite figured it out. There's all these digital nomads like myself moving around, and I was in Costa Rica for a while. I was, in New Zealand for a little while. Like my tax identity is sometimes shifts. I've been in the U.S. for a while, but in this new world with all these digital products, and the industry needs a little more clarity, and nobody wants to do something that's going to get them in trouble or come back to bite them later. So
right, but governments are very slow to move, so it's going to be like this for quite a while before they catch up. And by the time they do catch up with how internet business is done, then it'll be different by then. So I think this will be an ongoing thing, and it's just I try to be compliant. Right. Even if I lived in the States and I knew about this, then I would really consider, either blocking other countries or getting Taxamo involved, because Taxamo is really cool. It doesn't do just the EU. They tell me when I might have a tax burden in the States. Like if a certain state I get a lot of sales in, they'll send me a red flag and say, you've reached a limit here and you may want to check on this. And then it gets even more complicated, because if you have a nexus to a certain state, which means some kind of connection, and that connection could, they typically explain it as a warehouse. Like I have a warehouse full of t-shirts in New York, and that's where I ship from. So now I have a nexus to New York. And if I reach a certain threshold, then I'll have to collect the paid sales tax. But a nexus can also be an affiliate. Okay. So if you started promoting my courses and they reached a certain threshold in your state, then I would have maybe, again, I'm not an accountant, I would have a burden to pay in your state as well. So it's extremely complicated, and you just have to talk to an accountant. That's really the only way to kind of be sort of safe.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing your experience on that. And for those of you listening, at some point you're going to bump up into this issue. So it's important to look at and make decisions and keep checking in on the current status in the industry and the different country laws, and do the best you can and seek professional advice. Well, let's
definitely
and just so Taxamo was like an option in ClickFunnels that you could like it was an integration, you could check a box and turn it on, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do a really good job with their integrations. So like Stripe, for example, it's like 2 clicks and they do everything for you. You click a button, you log into Stripe, and then you're integrated. All of your shopping carts are integrated with your Stripe account. And it was very similar for Taxamo. So they made it easy.
Gotcha. Well, let's go back to your story. So if you're running a Facebook ad and somebody enters your ClickFunnels marketing funnel and gets a bunch of value in advance, and eventually they get to the bottom of your funnel, the conversion point, and they enter their credit card, which is powered by the Stripe integration and ClickFunnels, and your tax situation is handled through their integration with Taxamo.
Right.
And then you get a successful sale. Now you're standing here, this funnel software, these landing pages, these checkout pages, it's not on your website. It's on clickfunnels.com. Is that correct?
The checkout pages, right. And all the landing pages, that's cloud hosted. So that's on ClickFunnels site. You can register a custom domain, which I did. So sometimes you'll see really quickly like ClickFunnels and then it'll switch to my custom domain. But it's still hosted by them. It's all hosted by them. I think it's worth mentioning ClickFunnels does have a membership area, but it is not an LMS, right? It's not a learning management system. I've purchased a few courses on ClickFunnels, and it's really frustrating because you go to this page and there's no progress, right? You have to remember where you were. So there's none of
paywall.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the information is great, but it's not that that learning experience. So I think there's a big difference between like a pure information product and really this education thing. Like what Danny Eine talks about a lot is really making sure that your students have success and like comparing it to a university, that there's really a staff there. That's why it's so expensive. There's all these people there to support you. I think that distinction is really important. So they have a membership area, which I don't use because I want to teach people for the long term. So where were we going with this? Oh, the plugin, the connection. So that's why I have everything in ClickFunnels for the marketing and sales. And then I've got my learning management system in WordPress with LifterLMS. And when you make a purchase in ClickFunnels, it's connected to my Stripe account because everybody's used Stripe to process credit cards almost. And Stripe can send out a webhook. And all that is Stripe sending a message to another website. And we use that to send a message to LifterLMS. And I had Dennis create a plugin that can receive. So the plugin knows your Stripe secret key. And whenever a purchase is made on my Stripe account, it sends out a webhook to my LifterLMS. It'll create a user and it will register in them in the course that they purchased.
That's awesome. I just reposted that link there when Patrick is mentioning Dennis Hall. He's the programmer and owner of learning-templates.com. And they make some amazing products that work with Lifter, and he's got other products as well. But the ClickFunnels to Stripe to LifterLMS plugin, if you're interested in that, I just reposted a link there. But just to be clear with everybody listening, that's why I was asking, is ClickFunnels is somewhere else? Even if you do a custom domain, you have a challenge of the sales happening on a different website is where the LMS is. So how do you make them talk together? So you built that bridge through webhooks and that plugin that you can get over at learningtemplates.com. And I think it's also important to mention over there at learning-templates.com, there's also a plugin that goes directly from Stripe to LifterLMS without ClickFunnels. And that's helpful if, Stripe is used in a lot of places. It's pretty much the best online credit card processing payment gateway there is. Lots of other services use Stripe. You can kind of use Stripe by itself. And if you ever are selling somewhere else besides your WordPress website that has LifterLMS installed with Stripe, you can do exactly what we're talking about here with just that Stripe to LifterLMS piece. But if you're using ClickFunnels, which has Stripe for credit card processing, that's what we're what we were originally talking about here. So that's very cool. Very cool.
Right.
Did
But
you
the actual connection is from Stripe to WordPress, basically, to LifterLMS. So that's where the connection takes place. And it works both ways. So if you click refund in Stripe, then the user will get deregistered from the course. It won't delete the user, but he won't be enrolled in the course anymore.
That's awesome. What is your pricing model? Are you doing a one-time payment, a payment plan, monthly? What's your deal? Are you offering several options or what?
I don't know. I'm looking on the website now. It's I see that it's $37. I don't know if that's annual or one time. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I just meant for your course.
Oh, for my course.
Like yeah.
So yeah, so I'm still kind of figuring out how this whole thing is going to work. But my courses are one-time fee,
okay,
right? Because it just seems like a fair way to do it.
One-time lifetime access.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I started with this, there's a lot of courses about teaching courses out there, and it all seems very sketchy sometimes. So I'm really conscious of not coming off too salesy or pushy. And I really do want to help people. Like that's, I kind of want to change my day job, but I don't want to change it to something that causes more stress in my life. I want to get some kind of enjoyment out of it. And when I help somebody, that's just the coolest thing in the world. So I kind of keep that attitude in everything I do. So until I find a way of continually providing some kind of information or to be helpful for a monthly fee, then I'll start doing that. But I haven't figured it out yet for me and my audience. So that's why the courses cost what they cost. But I can imagine that over time, I'll kind of structure things together. You purchase a course, I keep in contact with you. Maybe 30 days later, I kind of introduce you to the next course, and one thing kind of build on top of the other, so that at some point you're kind of like a university that has different classes. And then if you've taken this curriculum, then you are certified, whatever. So that's kind of what I have in my head right now, but I'm letting it develop as it comes.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, how did you get to that point? Or let's talk about the story where you did something really cool, which I encourage people to do sometimes when they hit a wall in terms of what the tools do out there. You were like, okay, I like ClickFunnels. I want to use it for my funnel and selling. I like Lifter for the LMS, but I need to connect them. And you ended up in custom development land. And you're like, the solution literally did not exist, so you built it, and you didn't do it alone. How did that, can you tell us about that point there, how you figured out like, oh, it was worth doing for you, and like, just why you decided to pull the trigger on building a custom solution?
Well, the idea is because I'm a programmer, right? So okay. I understand how all of these things fit together. And I've also built products in the past that never really went anywhere. So I know how much time can just be, I hate to say wasted, because there's always a learning experience. You always learn something out of it. But on its face, you could waste a lot of time making something like this, or spend a lot of time, or if it's not your specialty, like WordPress is not my specialty, and plugins not at all. So it was, believe me, it was tempting to say, all right, I'm just going to learn it and write this plugin myself. It was really tempting, but I wanted to get these courses out there and be helpful. So that's kind of how I came to the decision of outsourcing it. Deciding that it was worth the money was just one of those things where I had some traction. I had sold a few courses already, and I think the amount of money I had already made on the courses was the same as what the plugin would cost, and I didn't plan on stopping. So that's kind of how I justified it in my head. It wasn't really like some kind of business degree type of a decision. It was just really, well, I already earned that much money with it, and if I get this plugin, then it will open up this whole new world of marketing funnels and things like that, and it can only go up from there. So that's kind of why I did it, and it has paid off. In the first handful of sales, the plugin was paid for. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's really important to recognize that and treat your business that way. And sometimes you have to invest in building something custom and look at the economics of it, and take the risk. It's just part of part of doing business. So I admire you for doing that. And I know that was probably easier for you to do as a programmer type person, since you kind of know how the industry works. But
well, it was
yeah,
easy to talk
great.
to the developer, to talk to Dennis about it. That's when you're outsourcing programming. That's the most difficult part, is communicating exactly what you need. And yeah, we had to have a few conversations, and then kind of he misunderstood me at first, or I didn't explain it right. But then when we did get it right, the light bulbs went off, and he was like, "Oh, that's what you want to do," and oh, this is cool. So because it really is, it's just. I think you've mentioned before, it's just an entry in a database, right? You need a way to get somebody's money and then create, an entry in a database, right? Those are the two things that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really, it's a good skill to have. And I know Dennis over at Learning Templates is good at this, and I know you're good at this, and we do this all the time at Lifter, is you have to build a bridge between the business or the teaching concept and then the development or the technology concept. And I know, and you don't always, it takes a conversation sometimes to really get on the same page.
Several.
Like, well, if I need this business, several. If I need this business outcome, or I need the students to experience this, how do we solve that problem with technology? And getting good at that conversation and asking the right sentences. And, I personally, one of my tips for people listening out there is having voice conversation is good. Writing is really good too, because it forces clarity of thought. Like, so what exactly do you want to have happen? Well, when a user clicks the buy now and on payment success, this happens in the LifterLMS website. And I think, just for those of you listening, if you're ever running a quote by a developer or agency, the amateur way to do it is to use the word etc. ... in there. You gotta take the ambiguity out and get really specific. And really, we call it in programming or development, we call it a user story. And as long as we can get clear on the user story, as a user, who I'm doing this in the system, this happens, and this happens, then this happens. If you can communicate in that way, that's what you need to build that bridge to a custom development solution.
And one thing I would add is to really try to distill whatever it is you're trying to do, distill it down to just the most essential things, and plan on having a few runs. So the first release or the first attempt should really just be super simple. Maybe even just one button that sends hello world from one place to another, right? And for us, that was just kind of, getting this Stripe webhook to talk to WordPress at all, just to get that communication down and see how it works. Because when you do things like that, you may stumble upon things that you didn't know about before, and it could change the way you go, the path you take to get to completion.
Yeah, that's very good. Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us, Patrick, and anybody listening. We'll be sending out a replay of this. So if you're not here live, that's cool. You'll have the same links to ClickFunnels and Patrick's post about the 4 tools for online course success. And we have one question in the chat. If anybody has any other questions in the Q&A, now's the time to ask. Could you, so the question is just, could you post the name of the tax calc tool? It's called Tax and Mo. Kathy, if you could maybe find a link to that. And
there's a link on that. So I wrote a post yesterday in ClickFunnels really quick about a lot of the things we talked about today. And that's at learnavprogramming.com/LMS. And there are links to most of the things we talked about today. And just to be upfront, there's a lot of affiliate links in there. I know they can seem kind of icky at times, but it costs the same amount whether you use them or not. And if you find the information useful, it's just a nice way to say thank you. My thinking on affiliate links has changed a lot. I think it's a really great way that you could share information for free and still maybe make it worth your time. So just wanted to be upfront about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Affiliate marketing is a great thing. We do a little bit of it in terms of, we use WP Engine for all our web hosting. So when we recommend WP Engine, we use our affiliate, and we're just being straight up because we love that product. We use it ourselves, And yeah, and even like LifterLMS affiliates, I would rather pay people who are using the product to help spread the word than pay for paid advertisement somewhere else or whatever. So I think affiliate marketing is a great thing to explore on both sides of it. If you're interested in it, for getting people into your course or just finding other ways to generate revenue based on your recommendations. So Patrick, I really want to thank you for taking the early evening with us here and coming at us from Germany and sharing your experience with us. And thank you for adding to the LifterLMS community. Thank you for working with Dennis and rolling out that ClickFunnels and Stripe integration. That's really cool. Thanks for being a part of the community and all of that.
Thank you, Chris. It was a load of fun. It's great fun to talk about this stuff. And yeah, this whole online course journey has really been just a lot of fun. I think it changes your personality a bit because you have to have to share more. You got to put yourself out there. So it's kind of, I don't know. I think it's a great thing for really anybody to just give a try. So if you're thinking about it, just jump in. There's really not much that could go wrong.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Patrick. That's it for the recording. And yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Definitely.